nose, got rose in my cup though. Shawty climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though. Cocaine in my nose, got rose in my cup though. Shawty climbing my pole, she got me locked in on cup though.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here and Jack Burnett. All the lights are currently lit here on track. And it is go, go, go!
Contact through the Mercedes team.
Donoso with a crafty maneuver up the inside. Masterclass from the Chilean.
Crucial championship points on offer here.
Do not count down Danny Beresne.
Longe has done the job. This is for the win between these two.
Freddie Rasmussen wins the United States Grand Prix.
Alfie Butcher wins for the first time ever. Lucas Blakely takes the championship. It's Barry Foreman.
Jarno Opmeer is your champion.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to PSGL. And for the first time on F124, we've had a bit of a break and we've got ourselves settled into the new game. We're 3 days in, actually. The game's not still officially released. We're here on the early access, but we're here. We've got 20 drivers, and then, of course, we've got another 20 drivers in the second lobby, taking to the track of Qatar on the brand new F1 game. We've got a couple of new teams. That's also going to get a bit of you getting used to. And also, a track like Qatar, Max, has had a big change, hasn't it? Coming through into visually coming into this game.
Yeah, it certainly has. It's going to be quite interesting to see how these drivers get on, of course, with this new handling model and everything. And as you say, Qatar with the visual changes, it could catch drivers out. I mean, they've probably been sweating this track out all afternoon, but it could catch drivers out with the braking points and reference points overall from last game to this game. So, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see who's adapted to this new handling model quickest. And of course, it's going to change anyway. So,
yeah,
what we see now might not be representative of when we get into the actual season. So, again, this is just a bit of fun, and on the early access, we'll see what these drivers can do.
Yeah, indeed. I think it's going to be very excited to see what they can do. There's been many mixed reviews about this game, but we'll have a quick look at the lineup before we head our way in. So the Kick-Saver car, one of the new teams, we have Louis Welch and Tycho Hardy. In the McLaren car, we have Daniel Kjelsen and JSD. In the Ferrari, we have Janne Tripkov and Tias Korsman. In the Alpines, we have Wilson Hall and Joris Kroos. In the Mercedes, we've got Will Gibson and Bradley Holdham. The Red Bull, we have Floris Vyers and Valentino Labella. In the RB, we have Declan Barrett and Leo Lund. The Williams, we have Tony Roche and Alexander Dimas. In the Haas, we have Julian Klaffenbach and Andres Franco. And finally, in the Aston Martin, we have Racing Tiaz and Bogdan Moldovan. So, Max, a very, very I've got to say, very good grid, isn't it? For the first race on the game, we've got a very, very interesting grid. Of course, all these drivers from F2, F3, and F4. I'm sure they'll give us quite a good show here in Qatar tonight.
Yeah, they certainly will. I mean, you've got the likes of Louis Welch, you've also got Taisho Hardy, Will Gibson as well. So we've got some good drivers on this grid. JSD is also here. So, I mean, it's new game. Some drivers may be quicker than others on this handling model, and we shall just see what these drivers can do. But about Qatar, 16 corners, 10 to the right and 6 to the left, the length of 5.418 kilometres or 3.367 miles. Laps 29 here this evening, which will give us a total race length of 157.122 kilometres. Lap record held by Max Verstappen for 23.196. Most wins is held by Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, sorry, with one apiece. And then, of course, the first race was in 2021, here when Lewis Hamilton won back in November. And yeah, that was during that emphatic title season. And all the drivers now out on the circuit. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah, of course, it'll be interesting to see what these drivers can do on their first runs in this brand new game. Of course, many of them have practiced. Some of them might not have practiced as much as others, depending on time and depending on how much they like the game. We know there's been a bit of yeah, there's been lots of differences in opinions in whether people like this new handling model of the game, but the 20 of them are here racing either way, so it can't be that bad, otherwise they wouldn't turn up. As we can see now, a few cars out on their first laps. We've got Will Gibson at the front of the field with Leo Lund. Those two will be going out first to start their initial runs, and a bit of battling on an out lap here. So a bit of practice for the race, it seems, by these two, but Leo Lund will be the first one to set us off in the brand new RB car, the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls Formula 1 team. We'll keep it RB, we'll keep it sweet and short. Max, take us through a lap here with Leo Lund.
Right, here we are then, heading down the main straight. We can see what Leo Lund can do here in his RB. So heading down into turn 1, to be braking just after the 50-metre ball, get the car down to 4th gear, back on power nice and early. You switch it back over to the right-hand side, keep it in 5th, a little lift off there for Leo as he then heads up through turn 3, which then leads you down the straight up into turn 4. So then down to 6th gear, quick direction change to the right, you then ride it all around the outside curb, switch it back into the right again for turn 5, and then late on the brakes for turn 6. Very easy to understeer wide here, but nicely done by Leo to get a good exit out of the corner and head up to turn 7. Again, very easy to understeer through a long right-hander, and you've got to make sure you get that apex and then run it all the way back out wide through turns 8, 9, and now into 10, late on the brakes there from Leo as he now gets as good momentum as possible, heading up into the triple right-hander. Just like how Turkey is, this of course is representative of what the Turkey quadruple right-hander is, as you then head out into a quick flick left. It'll be flat out in these cars, and then into that final corner, a crucial braking zone to get right. Got to make sure that you don't overshoot the exit. Taking a bit too much inside curb there, I think, there for Leo, but it's of course a banker lap, the first lap of the season, and it's a 20.241. Not too bad there from Leo Lund, but certainly can be built off, as there you see Brad go straight to the top.
Of course, still a few more drivers left to go on their laps. We've got one of the Ferraris here, Yano Tripkov, heading his way through into the final corner as Tiger Hardy goes to the top there with a 120.171 there, 8,000 separating him and Bradley Holdham as Dimas goes even quicker with a 20.028. Looking to find some more drivers on a lap. Welch and Moldovan have both invalidated on their runs. We've got Declan Barrett going up into second place. What can Daniel Kjelsen do as he heads his way to the line, goes up to P7 in the McLaren, his teammate JSD down to 10th, as I believe that was Wilson Hall, going up into now 9th, and Race Imtiaz up into the top 3 there in the Aston Martin. Still a few more drivers left to come through. Flores Fires up to the line, goes up into P12 there with a 120.591, and then near the back we've got Julian Kleffenbach, I believe there, invalidating his run as he did not set a time when he came across the line. But I've got to say, visually, this track looks a lot nicer than it did on the last game. A little bit more, you know, more trees. The grandstands as well look a little bit more updated. But, of course, there's those first few laps coming through, and we can see the grid is surprisingly quite spread out there. You can see, what, 6/10 from 1st down to 14th, and Dimas with a decent lead up in 1st.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, this circuit is a lot better looking and not as bland for the drivers and also us spectators. overall look at. And yeah, I mean, it's the first runs. I mean, of course, you're going to see maybe a bit more of a field spread compared to the next two. Because of course, early mistakes can easily creep in, especially around a circuit like Qatar, where it's very easy to drop the rear, just understeer a little bit wide from some of the apexes. But yeah, Dimas with a very nice early lead in this session for just under a tenth of a second over Declan Barrett. So, I mean, there's still so much time for these drivers to find within these laps. Each lap they're going to be finding more and more, and they're going to just be learning the circuit and the handling model a lot more as each lap ticks by. So we could see Alexander Dimas start off first hit. It may come the end of the session, we don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers adapt as this session goes on, and also how much time they can find on their initial runs.
Yeah, of course. We've still got 6 people left to set a lap. Louis, Bogdan, Joris, Tony, Julian and Will. They'll be heading out very shortly to get their first laps underway. And all the others, 1st to 14th, will be looking to set their second runs. But of course, guys, welcome everyone into the chat. Make sure to let us know, what are your thoughts on the new game? You know, it can be for anything with the handling, the visuals. Let us know what you think of this brand new game. As we know, the opinions, I think, compared to last games, differ quite a lot in many different aspects, which is, I suppose, a nice thing to see. As you know, of course, we get to see everyone's differences and what everyone prefers in an F1 game. But of course, I think the game's very good. I do like it, to be fair. I think the handling can be fixed a little bit, but EA have said they're going to fix it, and I've seen some footage in some places, and it does look a lot better. So I think, you know, these first few weeks might be a little bit painful for our fast drivers, but as soon as the new handling comes out, I'm sure they'll be a lot more happier. But we've got one of the Mercedes out on circuit first, Bradley Holdham, in P5 at the moment, of course, racing in F2 last season. Did a decent job, I believe, got on the podium on one occasion, so we'll see what he can do tonight here in the first social race of the game, of the season. I suppose you could say it's the season 37 social race, as of course that is the next season, which is upon us very shortly. But of course at the front as well, Dimas with that 1/10 gap to Declan Barrett. We'll see what Alexander can do, and maybe that first run, I think he could still find a lot of time there. I know people were saying there was around the 0.7 and 0.8s in terms of their peak laps, but I'm sure we can see a little bit more quicker here, Max, once they get a little bit more tuned into the cars.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there's still 2 temps at the very least on those peak laps, so we can maybe see them dipping into the 0.6s, the 0.5s at a push, maybe, the likes of Dimas and Declan Barrett, but we can only wait and see. But Dimas will certainly be looking to build from that lap time, as Brad is now starting his lap time, heading into turns 1 and 2. He's going to go back down to 5th gear, off the throttle, straight back on it, run the car all the way out wide. But yeah, we can still see plenty of time in these laps. If those drivers are setting 0.8, 0.7 as their peaks laps, we can easily see from Motum a 3/4 improvement over the course of the session. So now Bradley heading in to the turn 6 hairpin. He's up by 300ths in that middle sector, as he's now heading into turn 7, down to 4th gear, run the car all the way out wide, and then straight back on the power, nice and early, and flick it through the right. Then you head into the left, very easy to understeer and invalidate your lap off the road, but nicely done there from Bradley, as he now heads through turn 11 and now into 12, 13 and 14. He's up by just under half a tenth by 1 millisecond there, so he's going to promote himself at the very least up into 4th place, passing Taisho Hardy as he now heads into the penultimate corner. Flat through there for Bradley as he now heads into the final corner, be braking just after the 50-metre board, around about 40 metres, and then straight back on the power as he exits the corner. DRS Open, a closer start-finish line this time around this season, and it's 4 milliseconds separating Bradley and Alexander Dimas, but a good improvement there from Bradley to promote himself up into 2nd place.
Of course, a very nice lap indeed there from Bradley Holdham. I'm on board here with Tias Korsman heading his way through in towards the middle set, well, the end of the middle sector now, where he's up by just over 0.3 of a whole second as he heads his way through now in towards turn number 16 at the penultimate corner. We can see still many drivers on their out laps looking to get out and set their first runs. We'll We can see that I think that was Valentino Labella not improving, heading back into the pit lane as well. One of the kit cars, very late move back into the pits. What can TS Korsman do? Goes up to P7 there in the Ferrari with a very nice lap indeed. Then we've got Andres Franco going up into P9 in the Haas car. Further back we can see Yane Trepkov. He's invalidated but was up by just over 0.2 of a second as Declan Barrett goes to the top there with a 1:19.887. A brilliant lap there from the RB. So we'll see what other people can do, and hopefully someone can try and battle Declan for pole position. 8 minutes to go. We've got Dimas, Max, just starting, I believe, his second lap now as he heads his way through in towards turn number 10. We'll see what he can do.
Actually, I think he's aborted this one. I know he did just complete a lap just a little bit ago. He was up by 100 in the middle sector and lost it. Oh, yeah, he's 3.4 seconds down. So Dimas on this second run of qualifying, making an error and not being able to improve on his previous lap time. So Declan Barrett has that 10.5 advantage at the moment. Is anyone else on a push lap coming to the line? I don't think we do. Julian Klaffenbach is actually coming to the line. Now what can he do? He goes up into second place, but still not into the 1:19. So Declan Barrett still has that 1/10 advantage over the rest of the field. And in these situations, these races, that is a huge advantage over the rest of the field in qualifying. As there was, I think, a McLaren coming across the line. I think that was Daniel Kledgen starting a lap as well. Wilson Hall now coming up to the line. Where can he go? He stays in 11th place, a 1:20 there for Wilson Hall, just behind Andreas Franco. But still here, Nathan, a 0.5 tenth improvement if you're in that mid-pack. That can easily promote you up a good 3-4 places and put you right at the front end of the field.
Indeed, we can see, some of the groups here in qualifying, second down to fifth, separated by what? 47 thousandths of a second, 7th to 10th, separated by less than a tenth, and then also 11th down to P14, just separated by just over a tenth. So very close gaps here in qualifying as we get ready for the final couple of runs. Of course, some people might be able to squeeze 2 runs out now if they couldn't get one done at the start, but I presume those likes of Declan, Alexander, Julian, who are, comfortably up in and around that top 10, they will be going back into the pits now and then getting prepared for their final lap when we get to around 3 minutes to go in this session. But the fight for pole could still be very interesting. We've got Bradley Holden going out quite early on a lap. This will be his third run in qualifying. We'll see what he can do, of course. With 5 minutes to go, I'm quite surprised to see drivers going out for a third run. I don't think he can do 2 more runs. So, yeah, he's going to be trying something a little different here, it seems, in quali.
Yeah, I mean, he'll probably have most of the track to himself, will Bradley, with this run. But, of course, at the minute, he's encountering traffic on his out lap. So he still should have some clean air onto this one. So he's going out, trying to get that gap, make sure that no one can really impede him or make him make a mistake at any point in the lap. He is following his teammate Will Gibson at the moment, who's, I think, going to start another lap in this one. Invalidated his original one, I think Will Gibson did, or made a mistake. Yeah, he's actually run out of fuel, as Will Gibson. So it is going to be Bradley to just start his lap, be the only one on circuit on a lap, and hopefully give him the best chance possible at fighting for that pole position. But this will surely be his final run of the session. So now heading into turn 1 with the Mercedes driver heading through the right, then you flick it straight back over into the left hand. And that's Valentino Labella heading up to third, and then Taisho Hardy up into second place. 16 milliseconds separating the top 2. So Declan Barrett, thinking he had that gap at the top of the field, it has been sliced in half, and Taisho Hardy is all over the back of him as we'll head into the final runs of the session. Bradley Holden down by 5 thousandths in that first sector, so he's still got to find a little bit of time in this middle sector to even be improving on his lap. So now heading through the right of turn 9, then braking as late as he possibly dares into turn 10, takes a lot of inside curbing there. I think like that might be a little bit too much there for Bradley through turn number 10. We'll sit in the middle sector. He's up by just under half a tenth. This will promote him up into that top 4. So we'll see what he can do as he heads through the penultimate corner. Flat out through there for the Mercedes driver. Coming up to the final corner now, braking about 40 meters again. Clip that inside curb, run it all the way out wide. And for Bradley, he's actually decided to abort that one, thinking there's more time in that lap. And so Bradley will just about have enough time to go again.
Of course, as we can see, Floris Vyers go up into P8 there in the Red Bull, a 120.062. It's brilliant to see Floris back racing. Well, I didn't see much of him on the last game, unfortunately, but he's been in F2, he's been in F3, he was also in F1 Esports back in, I think, 2018, 2019. So he's definitely a bit of a veteran member here in PSGL and League Racing. So it's brilliant to have him back racing with us and currently sitting in the top 10 there in the Red Bull with a 120.062. But the top three at the moment is Declan Barrett on provisional pole position ahead of Tiger Hardy and Julian Klaffenbach in third place in the Haas. And I've got to say, guys, if I get mixed up with the Haas and the Ferrari a lot, I will, because unfortunately they've both got very similar colour codes on the map. So when you see me looking at Haas and I'm accidentally putting at a Ferrari, I do apologise in advance, because it's, yeah, I'm trying to get used to everything. There's green now on the board, and yes, I'm sure, Max, we'll get there eventually, won't we?
Yeah, we certainly will. I mean, you have the likes of the Alpines, the Red Bulls, the Williams, all in that blue. So we should get used to it eventually. I still don't know why. I know the logo of Haas is red, but the car is more predominantly black. So I'm surprised it didn't go for like a blackish grey or something.
Or white. The easiest option on the board.
The easiest option, yeah. So, I mean, it's going to take some getting used to, but we'll get there eventually here, Nathan.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. If not, we've got to, haven't we? I don't think they've got more to focus on than the colours of Haas's colour code, and I'd rather them focus on other things as well. Please, yeah, don't take your focus off the handling. Get stuck back on to look at the colour codes. Get back on the handling. We can see now a few more cars just heading out onto circuit. Everyone bar Floris Vyers, who obviously set his last run previously, so he'll be done, and he could drop down quite far in the field, considering everyone behind him can find some rather big improvements. Many of them were improving on their runs before some of them invalidated, all went back into the pits as they wanted to make sure that they have enough time. But we've got Wilson Hall now, Max on a lap, heading down towards turn one. I believe, did he race in F4 last season? Did you commentate F4? I'm sure you did, didn't you?
I think it was either F4 or no, it was F5. Wilson Hall did some racing in last season, and yes, I did do some commentary over him. He's a very quick driver and was in the championship fight there. So now heading into the right-hander of turn 6 and turn 4 and 5. Sorry, now heading into turn 6, a left-hander. He's up by just under a tenth of a second. Is the Alpine driver looking to try and break into that top 10 to start this evening? So now heading through turn 7, which will then lead him to turns 8 and 9, and then late on the brakes into turn number 10. Also, a very different line there from Wilson Hall from what we've seen the likes of Bradley Holden do. Not taking any inside curb there for the Alpine. He's up by 2.5 tenths though in that middle sector, so finding a mega amount of time in that middle sector. What can he find in the final sector as well? Now heading through the penultimate corner, the real corner where you find your time is that final corner in this final sector. So now heading through there, clipping that inside apex, running the car all the way out wide. Where will this put Wilson Hall? Can he get into that top 5? No, he cannot. It's a P9 for Wilson Hall. Breaks into that top 10, only just off the back of Floris Vyers there. And we now have more cars coming to the line. There's Ferraris, Haas's, Floris Vyers is finished his session. Tia's Korsman's finished. Andreas Franco goes up to the into P4, as there is also an Aston Martin of Ray's up into 5th place. Now it's getting incredibly close in this top 5. We still have plenty of drivers coming around. What is Tycho Hardy doing on his lap? He's up by 16 milliseconds, exactly what he needs to do to beat Declan Barrett here. So now through that middle sector, his drop time is 4 thousandths. Declan Barrett has improved on his lap time, so he now needs to find a 10th really here, Tycho Hardy, to even have a shot of snatching pole position away from the RB driver. The Sauber heading in to the final corner now. Can he find the time he needs? That was Julian Klaffenbach. Bradley Holden going up into second there. Tycho Hardy to the line. Where can he go? He promotes himself back up into second place, but it won't be enough to beat Declan Barrett. I think that's Leo Lund moving up into 8th place there. We're waiting on Joris to come to the line. He's invalidated his run, and that is going to be the end of qualifying here, Nathan. Declan Barrett takes pole position.
Yeah, a very nice lap indeed there from Declan Barrett. A 19.816 there separates himself and Tiger Hardy by half a tenth of a second. And then a very close gap back to Bradley Holden in 3rd, and then Julian Klaffenbach in 4th with his teammate Andres Franco in the top 5. So very close in qualifying, 2/10 between first and 6th. As you could see there, actually, we had multiple people match their times. We saw 2 people on a 0.20 and 2 people on a 0.25. So very close in the first parts of quali. We'll move over to the classification screen now, where we can see it will be Declan Barrett in the RB who takes pole ahead of Toga Hardy in 2nd, Bradley Holdham in 3rd, the 2 Hasses 4th and 5th, followed by Race Imtiaz in P6, Valentina Labella in 7th, Leo Lund 8th, Alexander Dimas 9th, and Flores Fires in the top 10. Then we have Wilson Hall in P11, Tias Korsman in 12th, Turner O'Shea in 13th, Kelson in 14th, Moldovan in P15, Crozen in 16th, Tripkov in 17th, JSD in 18th, Louis Welch 19th, and Will Gibson in 20th. And unfortunately there, Louis Welch and Will Gibson didn't set a lap time in quali, so those two on a very back foot going into this race, because you would assume that would be due to invalidations. Well, they've got to go 29 laps and not make 3 mistakes here. So this is going to be a very key race to see what they can do, Max.
Yeah, it certainly is. They really need to try and hook up this race, and overall, not over that mark. Maybe they're qualifying, learning where they can go off and stay on the circuit and find that time that they need, and where or where not the track limit penalties actually come into play. So that could have been what they were learning in qualifying, but still, it's going to be incredibly difficult around a circuit like Qatar to not get those 3 strikes. But of course, some of these drivers are some of the best on the game, so they should really do that with some ease. I've heard strategy front here, Nathan, that soft, medium, soft, or soft, soft, medium is the way to go, because the hards are about 2 seconds off, even when there are worn softs on the circuit. So that is the intel I've heard. Not sure if it's accurate, but we could maybe see a 2-stop here in Qatar.
Well, I'll be surprised if we saw a 2-stop, but we never know. We'll see what happens. I presume we'll probably have the same old medium, hard, medium, because I think drivers want to kind of learn, you know, what's best, and also play it safe with the tyre wear. We know that the front left, especially around circuits, can be hard. But we've got now 2, 3, 4, and 5 lights here in Qatar for the PSGL Social Race. It will be 5 lights. And Declan Barrett on pole ahead of Hardy down towards turn 1. Who gets the best start? It will be Declan Barrett, who has a way better start there from Toga Hardy. The 2 Hasses swapping in towards turn 1. Then Race Imtiaz looking to stick his nose in as they head through the first corner, all side by side, safe and send. The 2 Hasses still scrapping it out as they head their way through into turns 2 and 3. Race Imtiaz tries to get himself up into P5 as they head their way round, and he does get himself up into 5th. Further back, we can see Roche up into P9 ahead of Labella. We've got Joris Krozen up into 14th ahead of Daniel Kielsen, but still at the front, it's Declan Barrett who leads away.
Yeah, nice start there from Declan Barrett. That is going to be Alexander Dimas to the inside of Leo Lund, managing to not get the move off, and Leo's actually turned that into an attack on Kleffenbach, heading into turn 7. Now, round the outside goes the Red Bull. A little bit of contact made between front right and front left, but now a switch back from Leo Lund as Julian slides all over the circuit. To the inside he goes, and I think he's got that position done. Yes, he does. Kleffenbach having to sit behind Leo Lund now after that incident. Tony Richet and Alexander Dimas now attacking the Haas as well. Here's Richet to the outside line of Julian Kleffenbach. He's got that move done really nicely round the outside of turn 12 there. And now Kleffenbach under pressure from Alexander Dimas. But Declan Barrett with a dream getaway. He's 3 attempts up the road from Tycho Hardy, but he's kept that lead on the opening lap as Forrest Fires picks up a 3-second time penalty on the opening lap. He's down to 19th place already. A horror start for the Red Bull man, but Declan Barrett leading the way from Tycho Hardy and Bradley Holdham. And overall, a very clean opening lap there from the drivers for the first lap on the game. Everyone's made it through safely.
They have indeed, and Turner O'Shea, of course, on the soft tyres, taking it a bit differently to the others who are on the mediums, and then the other 3 being Louis Welch, Valentino Labella and Julian Kleffenbach on the hards. So we'll see what that does in terms of strategy, but most people think the mediums on the first stint are the way to go. We'll see here what Turner O'Shea can do. Of course, we know that tyre wear is quite high, at least it was for me on this game, as Louis Welch also gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. So we'll see what O'Shea can do and how long he can last on a set of those softs. Further back, we can see move being made by Tias Korsman and Julian Kleffenbach there. Tias to the outside as they head their way through in towards turn 9. An easy move there from the medium runner Ferrari ahead of the hard runner Haas as they all head their way through to the end of the second set. Through at the front, we can see there Race Imtiaz looking to make a move for P4, and then of course at the front it's still Declan Barrett who leads ahead of Tiger Hardy. The 2 new cars, the RB and the Kick, leading the way first and second as they head their way to begin lap 3 of 29.
Yeah, nicely done here from Declan Barrett on these opening 2 laps. But one thing I have noticed is I feel like there's a lot more disparity between tyre compounds. As you see Tony Richet being actually overtaken by Alexander Dimas as I say that. And Tycho Hardy gets past Declan Barrett down that main straight. Here comes Bradley Holdham as well to the inside line, managing to pull that move off. There's a yellow flag as a retiree of Louis Welch before we even got to the end of the second lap there as Will Gibson passes James Turpkov in the background. But it's Tycho Hardy from Bradley Holdham, then Declan Barrett. So Declan falling down 3 places there. And also one thing we forgot to note here, Nathan, is that we get DRS on after the first lap, not after we start lap 3.
Yeah, a little bit different, and I think, to be fair, it makes it a bit easier for the drivers who are trying to fight through. It gives them an extra lap to try and make a move. Is actually that, oh no, that would be Louis' car just heading back out onto track to retire. Louis Welch obviously not very happy after 2 laps, so that's his date. And of course, I believe Louis is still on the controller. So of course, if there's a, you know, if he's still trying to get used to it. I think it'd be a lot harder to get used to a controller than a wheel. So he might be like, right, that's it for me. I'm done for now. As we can see there, Racing Team still on the back here of Andres Franco, looking to try and make his way through up into P4 in the Aston Martin. Just can't find a way just yet, but we could see there from Toko and Bradley that how strong that DRS is. Of course, down that main straight into turn 1, and Declan Barrett got swamped in towards that first corner. Bradley Holdham was about 5 tenths back and easily got past into the braking zone as Will Gibson gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings on lap 4 of 29. We can see moves being made possibly by Race Imtiaz, looking to close to the inside there of Andres Franco into turn 1. The Aston Martin brakes later, pulls ahead of the Haas, and Race Imtiaz into P4 now, looking to try and fight with Declan Barrett for the podium here in this race. Further back we can see Richet, that advantage has gone already, it seems.
Yeah, those soft tyres really have hit the cliff. Of course, Qatar high tyre wear, so they will hit that cliff quite quickly. It's actually Leo Lund has passed Andreas Franco as well. So not only Ray's getting past, also Leo Lund getting past the Haas driver, but those softs really have hit the cliff quite early there. And now he's under all sorts of pressure as Tony Richet from Tiers Korsman in the Ferrari. We can see what he can do now as he's looking to the inside. He's going to try and get a good exit out of turn 7. And of course, one thing that these drivers need to learn as well, not only about the tyres, the handling model, and DRS being after lap 1, it's the new battery system. As here comes Tiers Korsman with that better run out of turn 10, and he's up into P9. Tony Richet now falling down into the final point paying position, and he's got Julian Kleffenbach all over the back of him as well. But his new ERS system, of course, with the different ERS modes being back into the F1 game. So now when you see a driver flashing in front of you, it might not mean that they are less than 10% battery. It means they could be recharging that battery with, I would say, 80% and trying to build that full battery back up. But here comes Bradley Holdham on Tycho Hardy. Is he going to go for the move? No, he's not. He's just going to sit behind the Sauber driver. And Julian Kleffenbach passed Tony Richet, and those soft tyres, which promoted him up into the top 7. He's already out of the points, and it's only lap 5.
Yeah, here the tyres of Tony Richet are just definitely not happy on those softs. 4 laps in, and he's already been destroyed by the hards and the mediums. So that shows on this game, maybe the softs aren't the way to go at the start of the race, because Richet is really, really struggling here. Look at the gap. He's been gapped here by Julian Kleffenbach in one sector. As we can see, Bogdan Moldovan make a send here on the Williams. The Aston Martin versus the Williams as they head their way through. Out of turn 6 into turn 7 to the outside goes Bogdan Moldovan, and he just has so much more grip. He can hang it around the outside, get back on the power earlier, and makes a move ahead of the Williams of Tony Richet, who's down into P12. But the key thing to note there is Moldovan has lost a lot of time making a move. He's now less than a second, more than a second, behind the back of Julian Kleffenbach. So a lot of work is needed to be done here by Moldovan to get himself back into that DRS range, because we know how strong the DRS is. If you lose it, you could be in a very dire situation here, especially when you're not even in the top 10.
Yeah, certainly, especially for the likes of Bogdan Moldovan. As you said, he's less than a second away from Julian Kleffenbach. And what I've noticed about Tony Richet, he's got a lot of understeer on those softs. As Bradley Holdham's got past Tycho Hardy, Tony Richet's into the pit lane to get rid of those soft compounded tyres. But Bradley now into the lead of the Grand Prix, and the Mercedes driver taking charge. The first of the new cars to not the first of the old cars to be leading the Grand Prix. Sorry, is Bogdan Moldovan actually falling behind both Valentino Labella and Daniel Kedgen there. So that really shows how powerful DRS is, and having no DRS can really plummet you down the order, especially around Qatar, because that main straight is so long. But one thing I was going to say, I noticed about Tony O'Shea, he's a lot of understeer, so I don't know if his fronts were overheating, as there goes JSD to the inside of Bogdan Moldovan. Now the Aston Martin versus the McLaren. The Aston Martin, though, getting the better drive out of the corner, and Bogdan able to stay ahead of JSD as we now head into the Titan Twisty, turn 7, 8, 9 and 10. And Bogdan Moldovan just staying ahead of Jay, heading in to that final sector now. But further up, Bradley Holdham, of course, taking that lead down that main straight last time around, now has Tycho Hardy all over the back of him once again. Declan Barrett keeping about 7/10 back. Don't know if that's lack of pace or just is sitting just outside of half a second to try save his tyres as much as possible for later in the stint. But we can see now down that main straight, will Tycho Hardy go for a move on Bradley Holdham? Yes, he does. Back into the lead goes the Sauber, and Ray's just putting out the slipstream from Declan there, and Declan is actually nearly losing DRS from the top two.
Of course, as we have a brilliant battle down to turn 1, 3 wide there for P14, 13, 14 and 15th as they head into turn 1 there, late on the brakes, and Joris Krozen in the middle of it in P14, looking to try and fight for 13th ahead of Bogdan Moldovan. We've got a brilliant battle at the back of the grid. Will Gibson as well looking to get involved, along with Floris, Vyers, and of course Tony O'Shea, who pitted earlier on, 23 seconds back, down in 19th position. But I've got to say, I know we don't like to watch battles at the back, but this is brilliant so far from these drivers. Into turn 6, we're going 2 wide, nearly 3 wide as Will Gibson for a second goes ghosted as he's trying to fight his way out of the McLaren in towards to number 8, trying to fight his way past JSD. They're going side by side, close to contact for now. Can Will Gibson get the move ahead? He can't. JSD gets a penalty there for multiple warnings, and Will Gibson into P15 for the time being, but a brilliant scrap between the McLaren and the Mercedes there, and fires through to 15 to the outside. Brilliant in towards the final couple of corners now, and they're going side by side into turn number 12. This is absolutely brilliant action at the back of the field, and for now Flores gets dropped down to P18, and that will be JSD up into 15th place, but back at the front yet again. Declan Barrett here is really struggling to keep within a second of the front guys. He's actually got pretty much no battery in the car.
Yeah, here we go. Then we could maybe see three riders. Ray's looking to the inside, and also Leah Lund looking to the inside of Ray's as well. But Declan just able to keep position there, but it's still only 8/10 of a second between Tycho Hardy and Declan Barrett. It's now dropped up to a second, so Declan really struggling here. I think he's made a mistake because he's dropped behind Ray's. And the oh no, I think that was just my internet or desync in the
No, a bit of lag there from Declan, it seems.
So Declan Barrett heading into turn 6, 7/10 is the gap between him and the Sauber of Tycho Hardy, but really is struggling for pace here is the RB driver, and Ray's can't really be too satisfied here behind Declan Barrett, because he's got Leo Lund looking to try and make a move at any given opportunity, as we saw down that main straight. So for Leo Lund, he's really trying to make a move on the Aston Martin and try to demote him down a place, and maybe even get his teammate in the process and move up onto that podium roster.
Of course, we'll see what Leo Lund can do, of course, in P5 at the moment in the second RB. Card Race Team makes a move on Declan. Lots of lag here for Declan Barrett as he moves back up to third as they head their way through into the final corner here, as Valentino Labella gets a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. And there, that gap between P10 and P11 is 4.1 seconds. So all those at the back are definitely not having a fun time because they're nowhere near the top 10. We can see Tias Korsman, we can see Wilson Hall and Klavenbach fighting into turn 1, and Wilson Hall goes down to P10, and he was in P8 a couple of seconds ago. We can see Ray Simtias actually dropping down behind Leo Lund. We missed that move in towards turn number 1, and then we can see what Andreas Franke can do up in P6, looking to try and fight with Ray Simtias, as Will Gibson gets another penalty for multiple warnings.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Will Gibson. Also, I feel like this is a bit unfortunate for Declan Barrett as well. This little bit of lag could maybe upset some of the drivers behind trying to go for moves, and where they might not be able to know where he is, which could lead to contact, which could end his race. But he's got his teammate Leo Lund behind at the moment as we head into turns 9 and 10. He's actually managed to catch up over the last lap to Tycho Hardy, so he does have a good amount of battery to play with as well with the DRS, but Tycho Hardy just sitting behind Bradley Holdham, happy where he is to build that battery and maybe go for a little bit of an attack later on, more near the pit window phase. And that battle further back with Wilson Hall He's just dropping off the back of Julian Klaffenbach here, so maybe he's worn out those medium tyres quite quickly, or those hard tyres really starting to come into effect, because Julian all over the back of T.S. Korsman as we head down this main straight, getting a good exit out of that final corner as Leo Lund to be able to get a move on Declan Barrett. No, he's not. So back to Julian Klaffenbach and T.S. Korsman as Tycho Hardy takes the lead to the Grand Prix. It's Julian Klaffenbach to the inside of T.S. Korsman. He's up into 8th place now. Those hard sides starting to come alive for the Haas driver, so maybe see him move up into that top 5 within the next few laps, because now, as those mediums start to degrade, those hard tyres are in a whole nother level on grip compared to the rest of the field. And look how much time he's just gained there on Alexander Dimas just through turns 4 and 5.
Yeah, of course, a brilliant job so far here by Julian Klaffenbach on the hards now, looking to try and apply pressure on those on the mediums. Lap 9 of 29, we're on, well, lap 10 now. They've completed 9 laps on those medium tyres. There's still 20 to go. So a long way in this race for those, obviously on the hards, we're wanting to be pitted a lot later than those on the mediums. So Julian Klaffenbach could be on a decent strategy, of course, going for more of an overcut here over those on the mediums. So we'll see how that strategy works in this game. Of course, on last game, an undercut was really strong at the start of the second stint, but you could fall back easily in the final stint. But the overcut was also good in the second stint, but poor in the first stint. I'm getting myself mixed up now, as we could see moves being made. And Declan Barrett, what's happening to him there? Yet again, a bit of lag from the RB. Drops into P6 as Andres Franco and Alexander Dimas gets past the RB, and also Klaffenbach to the outside of Declan Barrett. Didn't have DRS either. So Barrett, now down to P8, was looking to be a contender for the win, and now a contender for the top 10 at this race. No, he moves back up to P4.
Yeah, so for Declan, as I said earlier, this might unravel his own race, because of course drivers not knowing where he will be, and it might give some drivers a sense of false hope as well. The likes of Reyes and Andreas Franco, it could mean that they think, oh yeah, I've just got myself a free position, but no, he lags back in front. So for Declan, it's really unfortunate here. It's not really his fault why this is happening, as there we go, I think it's happened again. So he's gone really slow into turn 7, and no, he's actually been able to keep the car running nicely. He's gone a bit wide there, as here comes Andreas Franco around the outside. No, more lag here for Declan Barrett, as Andreas Franco just ghosted through the car of the RB driver of Declan Barrett, falling down the order. Bradley Holdham, though, sitting behind Tycho Hardy. I think these two are just going to keep swapping places, building up that battery, try to pull away from Leo Lund, but Leo Lund has caught up absolutely brilliantly here, as Declan Barrett has left the session. He's finally disconnected after all those issues that he's had, and unfortunately, that looks like it's going to be race run for Declan Barrett, as we see our first drivers into the pit lane. Reyes and Alexander Dimas, joined by Wilson Hall, into the pits on lap 12 of 29. Surely going onto the hard tyres here, so maybe Julian Klaffenbach, if he can carry on finding pace on these hards, could have pulled off an absolute masterclass on the strategy front here this evening.
Of course, and I'm going to say a big shame here for Declan Barrett, who is looking very strong in qualifying, was looking very strong going through into the race, and it seems that it was the internet that was the issue. I don't think it was a game issue. I think it was his internet, unfortunately. That kind of, yeah, didn't agree with him at this point in the evening. So a big shame for Declan Barrett. But I've got to say, there hasn't been that many bugs so far, and we have done only an hour streaming, but there's not been that many bugs, so it looks like an improvement in that way. But I've probably jinxed it now. But so far, the bugs are looking quite little, and I noticed as well we didn't see any of the in the quali. We didn't see any of those stupid penalties for blocking people, did we, in quali?
No. So I think they might have resolved that issue. Hopefully they have. At EA and Cody's, but no, I would say we've been actually pretty bug-free. I would say actually bug-free at the moment. I don't really think I've seen one so far in this session, as Will Gibson picks up another 3-second time penalty to add to his woes, as now the top 3 come into the pit lane. Bradley Holdham, Tycho Hardy, who sped into the pit lane. 10 seconds now for speeding into the pit lane.
Well, that's a lot harsher.
A racer
That is very harsh, isn't it? 10 seconds for speeding into the pits. I'm sure now drivers will definitely think again about speeding into the pit lane. The FIA made it harsher at IRL, but it seems they've also done the same here in the game. So a big punishment if you speed into the pits of 10 seconds, which definitely, as you said, Max, is a race ruiner. But where does Race Imtiaz come out compared to all those who headed into the pits? So Race comes out in P9. We can see Dimas looking to try and make a move there ahead of the Aston Martin. Can't do so as they head their way through in towards turns 2 and 3. And Bradley Holdham, that must be a bug. I've jinxed it because he's onto the softs.
Either it's a bug or an interesting strategy choice, because as we saw from Tony Roche, they had no pace after even 2 laps on that tyre. So Bradley Holdham is hoping that those soft tyres can hold on at the very least. He might even be going for a 2-stop here, because I don't think those softs will make it to the end from this point. So for Bradley, he's just going to have to try and maybe make this 2-stop work, maybe knowing that those hard tyres will hit the cliff eventually later on in the race, and mean that going to be on another fresh set of softs, and he can see what he can do, or even maybe doing a medium, soft, medium. I don't know, it's up to Bradley, but Declan Barrett falling down the order more. He's now to the bottom of that train of cars. But Tycho Hardy, his race has really been ruined thanks to that 10-second time penalty. I mean, it's a good thing that they've implemented that, because I feel like the 5-second time penalty didn't really affect too many drivers' races here in league racing. So for Tycho Hardy, now under pressure from Bradley Holdham, he's going to look to the outside. It's the Mercedes driver, nice and easy down that main straight with the DRS, but they have broken away from Leo Lund. It's 1.8 seconds between the Sauber and the RB, and for Leo Lund, he's got a lot of work to do, but luckily for him, Bradley's on the softs, and Tycho's got a 10-second time penalty. So at the minute, he's looking at a net P1.
Of course, a very good start so far by many of the drivers, but still at the front, of course, we have Julian Klaffenbach and Valentino Labella started on the hards. They will be going a little bit longer before they make a pit stop onto, I presume, the mediums, because the softs don't look like a race tyre at all in this game. They look very poor on tyre wear, so I don't expect to see much of those in the race, of course. So I think it was a bug for Bradley Holdham, because I don't see at all a 2-stop working in the world. You know, you're already going to lose another 20 seconds on top. You're not going to gain all that back by being on a set of softs compared to being on a set of older hards. As we can see now, the drivers fighting their way through in towards the end of the second sector. Dimas in P6, and then we've got Ray Simtez in P7 as Forest Fires gets another penalty to add to the penalties he's already got. We'll see how many he's got there. 9 seconds for Floris, 15 seconds for Will Gibson, so I'm not sure how he's racked up 15 seconds of penalties, but he's surely done it. So Will Gibson is far from finishing in the top 10 in this race, as Bradley Holdham on the softs sets the fastest lap.
Yeah, unfortunately there for Floris Fires and Will Gibson, is actually Ray's able to get past Alexander Dimas there with the DRS, and he moves himself up into 6th place. He can now try and attack Leo Lund for that P5. A big slide though for the RB driver, lucky to save that one, and that has brought Rays right into contention versus the RB man, as of course he was out of a second before that mistake, and now 8 tenths is what separates the pair. So now heading into turn 6, Rays just wants to manage this gap and make sure he keeps it under a second by the time they hit the detection zone, after the penultimate corner. So for Race, he just wants to keep this one under a second. Tycho Hardy still all over the back of Bradley Holdham, and I think those soft tyres have already started to hit that cliff point and start to lose all performance. And we can maybe see Tycho Hardy getting by it within the matter of seconds as JSD retires in the pit lane. He's our second DNF of this evening. And as Valentino Labella and Julian Kleffenbach stay out on those hard compound tyres, they could be going long onto the softs, but as you said, Nathan, that soft does not look like a tyre to even think about in this race. As here comes Tycho Hardy to the inside of Bradley Holdham. 2 laps, and that soft tyre is already done, really, in this race.
Yep, as we've got yellow flags, that will be JSD's car going back onto track. That's a bit dangerous as it heads into turn 1, looking to retire on the circuit. As we can see there, Max Dimas now more than a second behind Leo Lund. 1.2 seconds is the gap between those two. Then we have Ray Simtiaz in P7 still, looking to close in here and make a move on the back of the Williams, as Will Gibson gets another 3-second penalty, which adds his total up to 18 seconds now in this race. I believe the max is 30 before you get disqualified, so Will Gibson's got to rein it in now for the next few laps in this race so he doesn't get a disqualification. As we can see, Bradley Holden, of course, now look to start to lose pace off the back of Tiger Hardy. Leo Lund is pretty much in net P1 ahead of Alexander Dimas in net P2 and Race Imtiaz in net P3.
Yeah, really nicely done here from this top three at the minute. But look at Bradley Holden losing that time. It was 1.8 about 2 laps ago to Leo Lund. It's now within DRS range for the RB driver as Julian Kleffenbach from those hard compound tyres comes into the pit lane for a set of the mediums, you would think here, on the Haas car. Into his pit box, yes, a set of the medium compound tyres goes on to Kleffenbach's wagon as Bradley Holden still on that soft tyre, was able to keep up with some good pace there to Tycho Hardy, but Leo Lund is now joining that top 2 to really try and just get this one on the circuit and pull ahead of Bradley Holden and not lose too much time to Alexander Dimas behind, because he doesn't want to be in a duel for the win here. He'll want it to be as boring as possible for him and just bring this one back home and to the line in front. But Tycho Hardy, with that 10 seconds, of course, is net P1 on the road, but unfortunately will drop down the order. But Alexander Dimas, 2.2 seconds away from Leo Lund now. He's really struggling here on these hard compound tyres. He's starting to make a little bit of a queue behind him, isn't he, Nathan? With Wilson Hall, Reyes, Andreas Franco and Tiers Korsman all stuck behind the Williams driver.
Of course, and that has heavily helped Julian Kleffenbach because he come out the pits 3.7 seconds back. Half a lap later, it's 2.5. So Julian Kleffenbach has got a very good got a very good strategy. Of course, going from the hards to the mediums, as we can see. Leo Lund there making a move ahead of Bradley Holden, and now those softs yet again looking to die down and lose a lot of time. So Alexander Dimas will be looking to try and get within a second of Bradley ASAP, so he can try and get a bit of DRS to try and help his race. As Bradley Holden is back into the pits, I believe he will be going on to a new set of tyres. It will probably be a set of hards here for Bradley, as he did start on a set of the mediums. We have here Race Imtiaz looking to fight. We have Wilson Hall looking to fight here with Alexander Dimas into turn 1. So it's Tiger Hardy who leads ahead of Leo Lund, ahead of Race Imtiaz. Alexander Dimas and Wilson Hall still fighting through into turn 2 and 3. The Alpine to the inside gets a move done. Brilliant there from Wilson Hall up into P4, technically P3, because Tiger Hardy will drop down quite far because of his 10-second penalty.
Yeah, really nicely done there from Wilson Hall to fight that one, and for a man that was battling in F5 last season to be fighting with drivers that were up in F2 at the end of the last game, he really is showing how much pace he does have in that Alpine, and now he's behind Reyes. He's looking for second place potentially in this Grand Prix, as of course, as you mentioned, Nathan, as we keep mentioning, Tycho Hardy's 10-second time penalty. But for Leo Lund, he's just trying now to catch up to the Sauber. It's 2.8 between him and Race Imtiaz behind. So Leo just trying to get that DRS from the Sauber, maybe try help him pull away from the battling pack behind. But one thing that Reyes and Wilson Hall cannot afford here is to scrap, and that could lose all their chances of a race victory here this evening. So they just need to help each other, but Alexander Dimas is all over the back of Wilson Hall as we head down this main straight now. Is he going to look to the inside line? No, he is not. He's just going to sit behind the Alpine and just tuck into that slipstream, and Wilson Hall sits behind Imtiaz as we head into turn 1 for the 19th time in this Grand Prix, and this train falling all the way back down to Tiers Korsman. Kleffenbach not really found as much time as he did on his outlap on the trainer cars in front.
Of course, he's still looking to gain in though. The gap 1.8 seconds now as they head their way through in towards the end of that first set to Dimas on the back of Hall. Still looking to try and find a move ahead here of the Alpine, who's looking to lose time to Race Imtiaz. So Imtiaz here doing a very good job at the moment on his 7-lap old hard tyres. Leo Lund on a 6-lap old hards has now got a 3.1 second gap to Race Imtiaz. Will Gibson yet again gets a 3-second penalty, and now Julian Kleffenbach is just about to be within a second of the DRS. They head out of turn 10 down towards turn 12. You can see there a bit of overtake being used here by Julian Kleffenbach to get himself within a second as they head their way through. He is 7/10 back now is Julian Kleffenbach. We'll see what he can do on these hards, what his strategy will be if he can try and win on a strategy which no one else really took.
Yeah, this could be very interesting here from Kleffenbach. Of course, we'll have that extra grip for now. As we get later into the race, might start to struggle a bit and somewhat be stagnated by the pace of those mediums, as Wilson Hall's had a horrid run. I don't know what's happened to him here, as he's now dropped behind Andreas Franco and Alexander Dimas, and Tias Korsman also getting past the Alpine driver, as Kleffenbach is now all over the back of him as we head into turn number 2. I think we might be seeing the same issue as what happened to Declan Barrett here for Wilson Hall. I'm not too sure, but the car quickly is what it once was, and he's down in 8th place now is the Alpine driver. So Dimas now on the back of Imtiaz, and Leo Lund has finally got into the second of Tycho Hardy as Bogdan Moldovan now retires from pit lane. That's 3 retirees this evening, as Kleffenbach on those mediums now going to try and make his way past Tias Korsman.
Of course, yeah, a bit of a shame here for Wilson Hall, as well as it seems he's got an issue, and Bogdan Moldovan, there we can see it leaving the session. Big shame for him not to be able to finish here in Qatar. As we can see further up now, Julian Kleffenbach on the rear of Tias Korsman. The battle for P6 here between the Ferrari and the Haas. And we'll see who can come out on top here. Of course, 7 lap-old halves versus 3 lap-old mediums. You know, on paper, what should be quickest, but we all know that catching's one thing and making a pass is certainly another thing, as they head their way through. Head to the final corner now, back down towards turn 1. DRS being enabled for all those within a second of the car ahead, and there we can see Kleffenbach to the outside of Korsman, up into P6 next. It will be his teammates, Andras Franco, on the 8 lap-old hard. So still another advantage here in tyre for Julian Kleffenbach. He will be looking here to lead ahead of Racing Tez if he can. Of course, they got a 4-second gap to Leo Lund, but second place would still be brilliant here for Kleffenbach if he can make his way through the next 3 cars.
Yeah, it really would be here for Kleffenbach, as all over his teammate Andreas Franco, and Ray's of course leading this train in front of the of Alexander Dimas, sorry. And I think for Kleffenbach, catching Leo Lund might be a little bit of a tricky task, so he might be looking at a best of second place here in this Grand Prix. I don't think he'll be able to catch up to the back of Leo, and so he's fighting over this second place for this evening. Alexander Dimas, of course, all over the back of Ray's Imtaz as well. And Andreas Franco, with that penalty, will drop behind his teammate. So Kleffenbach just has to keep this one on the road if he wants to fight for second place here. As we now head for the penultimate corner, look how much grip he has through the faster corners compared to the drivers on those hard compound tyres. We'll see his run out of that final corner. It'll be DRS open for the for both Haas drivers, sorry. Who's going to make this move? Dimas is making a move on Ray's Imtiaz, and here comes Kleffenbach as well. He's going to try and get all 3 of them as he heads down into turn 1. He's managed to pull it off. What a move by Julian Kleffenbach, using the slipstream, using the battery perfectly, and before they even got to the braking zone, was able to get past Dimas, Imtiaz and Franco to move himself up into second place in this Grand Prix. What a move by Julian Kleffenbach.
Well, the DRS there helping a lot. The battery as well helping a lot for Julian Kleffenbach. Down towards turn 1, no one stood a chance of defending from that Haas. He gained so much time down that one back straight. Well, I'm sure a lot of people will be thinking now, what would have happened if we took that hard to medium strategy, because it looks like it's definitely in favour here for Julian Kleffenbach. That gap now to Dimas, 0.5 of a second. He would hopefully like to try and gap a second so he doesn't have to worry about those behind having the DRS on him. And if he can, try and catch up to Leo Lund, but it'll be quite hard to do so. The gap, 3.7 seconds between Leo Lund and Julian Kleffenbach at the moment, to say all head their way through down towards the penultimate corner. And then, of course, into the final corner, and we'll see them yet again head down to turn 1. But this time around, Dimas has kept within 0.3 of Julian Kleffenbach. Julian locks up into the final corner. More DRS being enabled here for the Williams of Alexander Dimas, as Tycho Hardy drops down to P2 as Leo Lund makes a pass for the lead officially on circuit. Can we see a move here for Dimas as he heads up towards turn 1 and backs off? That allows Imtaz to close in. They've got Korsman making a move ahead of Franco. Franco back to the outside as they head their way through into turn 2 and gets himself back ahead of the Ferrari of Tias Korsman, and into P6 goes Andras Franco. But still, we've got Race Imtiaz there, close to making a move into turn 1, but just wasn't quite close enough. And Tycho Hardy, to add to his pain, gets a 3-second time penalty.
Yeah, so that really does cement that Tycho Hardy will drop out maybe of the points here in this one with that 3-second time penalty. But Julian Kleffenbach now going to try and push forwards and try close down that gap to Leo Lund. but I think this might be an effort that is just a little bit too far out of reach for him. It's 3.7 between Tycho Hardy and Julian Kleffenbach. So as long as Tycho can stay within that DRS of Leo Lund, keep swapping places with the RB, it will make Julian and his goal a lot more reasonable and maybe a lot more improbable, not impossible. So for Leo Lund as he heads into the final corner for the 23rd time, about to start lap 24 of 29. I do think he has this one in the bag, but we all know what can happen here around Qatar and what could happen in these races. Tycho Hardy now to the inside of Leo Lund, gets the move done with a nice swap there. It's 4.1 between Julian and Leo, and for Leo, he just needs to bring this one home at the moment. Alexander Dimas getting closer to Julian Kleffenbach. We can't rule him out of second place, and also the same can be said for Reis Imtiaz. You can't rule these two drivers out of a second place here in this Grand Prix. They're still fighting with the Haas driver of Kleffenbach, and they are still just as ever present as they once were. So heading into turn 6 for lap 24 of 29, it is still Leo Lund in a net P1 in this Grand Prix.
Of course, and actually, Leo Lund is starting to break away from Julian Kleffenbach. The gap there for a second was just over 4 seconds. So Leo Lund just needs to keep himself consistent here on these hard tyres as Will Gibson gets another 3-second penalty. I think he's now on 24 seconds of penalties. We'll see. 27. So one more penalty and Will Gibson will be disqualified from this race. Most probably, but then again, it's a brand new game. I'm sure they'll be able to let him get a minute of penalties before he gets disqualified. But I'm sure at last game it was 30 seconds and you got a disqualification in the race. So Will Gibson has to be careful. He's up in P12, so he's not in the worst position on track. But regarding penalties, he'll go straight back down towards the bottom of the grid. As we can see, yet again, a make for the lead as Leo Lund goes to the inside of Tycho Hardy and gets himself back up to the top step as they head down towards turn 1. We can see Andres Franco as well on the rear of Reis Imtiaz. That gap there, 3/10 as they head their way down to the first corner. And Kleffenbach still defending here from Alexander Dimas for P3 as they head their way through. Pretty much their battle is for second, as of course Tycho Hardy has 13 seconds of penalties. One penalty, which was 10 seconds for speeding in the pits, and then a 3-second penalty for cutting the track limits 3 times over the race. So definitely not a race that Tycho Hardy would like to remember, but he does know he had the pace to fight for the lead at least.
Yeah, that's really important here for Tycho Hardy. Maybe I think that's why he hasn't retired from the race overall, is that A, he can still learn from this one, still get the knowledge of the handling model, and also he's still showing that he can still fight for this race win, and knows that he does have the pace to compete with these guys at the front of the field. So this one really is just a learning curve for Tycho. I think it was really just that speeding in the pit lane. He's learned from that now. He knows the consequences of speeding into the pit lane on this game now. So he's made that mistake. He's going to learn from that. And of course, it's only the social race, so it's nothing major on any championship challenge or anything. Still a massive learning curve for him. The gap between him and Julian Kleffenbach is staying around about 3.9 to 4 seconds when they cross the start-finish line. So that's probably going to be how it is all the way to the end of the Grand Prix. So we've really just got to look now between Alexander Dimas and Reis Imtiaz behind Kleffenbach to see if they can make an attack on the man in second place after penalties, Julian Kleffenbach. But Dimas just sitting behind. He's building that battery up nicely. I think here the Williams driver is just waiting for that final lap to dump all his battery heading down that main straight and to get past Kleffenbach as quickly as he possibly can before the end of that final lap.
Of course, we could have a brilliant battle here for second between Kleffenbach, Dimas and Imtiaz. It could be definitely very good down to turn 1. We could see how strong the DRS was last time out, and this time they'll be going full beans down to turn 1. All that battery being used, all the DRS of the capability of it being used down to turn 1. So I'm sure we could see a brilliant battle on the final lap here of this race. We're now heading through out of the second sector to begin lap 27. Soon Will Gibson has had a mistake. He's spun off at turn number 9, so he drops into P14. Flyers Vias will come close to him and try and get himself up into P14 and then demote Will Gibson down to 15th place. And then I believe Will Gibson, even though there's a car in AI, will still finish behind. So definitely not a good race at all for Will Gibson in the Mercedes.
No, it's certainly not. It's been an absolutely horrid one for the Mercedes driver, but of course he's just learning the track limits really as Tiers Korsman gets past Andreas Frenko there, so the Ferrari up into 6th place ahead of the Haas man, and that's him now up into a net P4 in this Grand Prix. Actually, no, a net P5, sorry, because of Wilson Hall just behind them, who doesn't have a penalty, so we can't really rule him out of contention for Media Podium if something happens between the likes of Reis, Kleffenbach and Dimas onto that final lap. But on lap 27 of 29 now, Forest Fires picks up a 3-second time penalty for more track limits. I think that puts him into the double digits as well now. But Tycho Hardy's still all over the back of Leo Lund. He probably isn't going to go for a move. The same reason why Alexander Dimas isn't. And talking about Dimas, he's picked up a 3-second time penalty, and that's his battle, and he's contention for P2 in this Grand Prix, over and done with. So now Reis really needs to get this move done, and he needs to get it done now on this lap to have any chance of fighting Julian Kleffenbach for that 2nd place on the podium, as Will Gibson's been disqualified now for multiple penalties. He picks up that final penalty. Here comes Dimas on Kleffenbach. To the inside goes the Williams man. Here comes Reis as well. Imtiaz going to look to the inside of Kleffenbach. Kleffenbach moves late. He's going to try maybe make a lunge on Dimas as well, but no. So it's Reis up into net P2. Dimas up to 3rd on the road, followed by Reis in 4th. Kleffenbach dropping behind the 2 he needed to stay in front of, but Dimas with that penalty will drop down now. So it's up to Imtiaz. He needs to save his battery through this middle and final part of the lap, and also just make sure he sticks within DRS of Dimas, because then he surely will be able to stay ahead of Kleffenbach as we head on to that final lap. But further up, Leo Lund still ahead of Tycho Hardy by 0.4 of a second, and further back, no move being made by Wilson Hall on Andreas Frenko, or even Andreas Frenko on Tiers Korsman. But it's Reis versus Kleffenbach for that 2nd spot on the podium.
Of course, a brilliant battle here between the Aston Martin and the Haas. Guys, let us know in the chat. Who do you think will take 2nd place? Do you think it will be Reis Imtiaz, or do you think it will be Julian Kleffenbach? This is a brilliant battle for 2nd here in this race. So Tony Roche gets a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. I believe that's his first penalty here in this race. But then they head down to turn 1 to begin the final lap of this Grand Prix. Leo Lund leads away ahead of Tycho Hardy, ahead of Alexander Dimas, and then we've got Imtiaz and Kleffenbach down towards turn 1. They're all using all the battery, using all the DRS they can as they head down towards the 1st corner. We can see Tycho Hardy make the way for the lead. We can see Imtiaz into 3rd, Kleffenbach into 4th. Can Julian make a send into turn 1? He breaks later, can't get the move done naturally, and as race goes wide, can Kleffenbach find a move? No, he can't. For now, he has to sit back and wait and go for it, probably down towards the final few corners if he can stick on the back here at the Aston Martin.
Yeah, that really is where he's got to try and make his move, but he needs to save that battery. Raises, he's not touching that battery really at all. He's been very, very conservative with it. That's what Julian Kleffenbach has to do as well. Only a quick burst out of corners, nothing major, but he's used a big amount there as they exit turn 6. Further up, Leo Lund will surely win this one here this evening, but Tycho Hardy showing that he does have the pace to fight up at the front. But further back, for this 2nd place on the podium, Reis Imtiaz is getting closer and closer. Kleffenbach has to try and get a move done into that final corner, but it is not looking likely for him, because he is not going to be close enough to the back of the Aston Martin. He's used all his battery there to try and pull as big of a gap as possible, but heading through the final corner now, it will be Tycho Hardy on the road to show he has the pace to try and fight with the big boys up at the front, but it's going to be Leo Lund to take the social race here this evening. He wins, followed by Imtiaz in 2nd, and then Kleffenbach in 3rd, who spins across the line. Wilson Hall manages to finish up in 4th in this one, but it is Leo Lund who wins here in Qatar, and that was a very, very strong drive from the RB driver, and overall, from where he started, which I think was quite down the order, he started down in 8th place, so from 8th to 1st, a really nice drive there from Leo Lund.
Of course, a brilliant drive to win by 6 seconds ahead of Reis Imtiaz, and of course, Julian Kleffenbach in 3rd. He tried something different, didn't he, with that hard to medium strategy, and I've got to say, did a decent job for him to finish on the podium. As we could see there, Tony Roche across the line in last place in P14. But we'll run through the final classification as we can see there, Leo Lund, driver of the day, 8th to 1st. A brilliant job indeed from him. And we can see, once we get through the loading screen and the podium celebration, when it would like to load. There we are. We can see Leo Lund taking the top step of the podium ahead of Ray Simtiaz in second in the Aston Martin and Julian Klaffenbach in third in the Haas car. Then we have Wilson Hall in P4 ahead of Alexander Dimas in P5, Andres Frenko in P6, T.S. Korsman in 7th, followed by Tiger Hardy 8th, Valentino Labella 9th, and Bradley Holden rounding at the top 10. Then we have Daniel Kjelton in P11, followed by Yana Trepkov in 12th, Joris Krozen in P13th, Tony Shea in 14th, followed by Floris Fires and Declan Barrett. Then we did, of course, lose Bogdan Moldovan, JSD, and Louis Welch, and Will Gibson, who got disqualified from this race in the Mercedes. So a very good race indeed to start off this game, and a very good battle for second place. Leo Lund kind of ran away, so we didn't have a battle for first, but still, either way, I think the first race of the game, the drivers of well, even though they didn't enjoy it too much, I've heard before, I'm sure they enjoyed some of that battling there on our screens.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. But even with Leo running away with things, he still had Tycho Hardy, who, if he didn't get that 10-second time penalty, he could have had a really interesting fight with him. We could have seen a fight for the win. But it's unfortunate how it happened for Tycho Hardy to pick up that 10-second time penalty. But yeah, these drivers will surely be, the handling model's a little bit crappy and not the best, but they will have a lot of confidence in overall. Even the contact model, we didn't really see too many light contacts ending up in spins. The drivers could race each other aggressively and really rub on each other at certain parts of the race. So that's something that could maybe be seen once the handling model improves a lot more utilised, is that hard racing, being able to somewhat touring car-esque rub and lean on one another. So it'll be interesting to see how the handling model develops, but the drivers should have a lot of confidence with the game overall heading into the season.
Of course, I think it was definitely a good way to start off the game as well. As we end our race, we've got Lobby 2, I believe, which is up and running now. That begun at 8 p.m. So, obviously, guys, make sure to, after you've headed off with us, go over to the second lobby, which is on the YouTube channel. That one is being hosted by, I believe, Epic, who will be commentating that race. Yet again, another very stacked lobby with 20 very quick drivers looking to take to the same track and seeing what they could do there. Maybe they've looked at this race and thought, right, we're not doing that strategy, or we're not doing that strategy. They might try something different. But I've got to say, it's been a brilliant way to kick off F124, a brilliant race between very quick drivers, and we'll see which one of them will be putting themselves into F2, F3 and F4 in the main season in next season, which I don't believe is too far away, probably about a month away, hopefully, before we get kicking off. But of course, thanks to Max for joining me in the commentary box. And guys, make sure to head over to the second lobby now to catch all the action from the other guys and see what they can do on a track around Qatar. So thanks, guys, for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Have a good one. Goodbye.